Welcome. These will be my thoughts on Star Wars Vision Season 3, Episode 9, Black. The episode is rated TV PG. Impressive considering it gets... I'll get into it. So will this video be. There will be spoilers for the episode and probably some other Star Wars, hypothetically, potentially, everything Star Wars leading up to the episode. We'll see as we go. And another episode I absolutely loved. So I guess this is it for Visions. I'm not sure there's more seasons. I'm probably going to do the spoiler-free review very, very soon, certainly, since it doesn't make a huge difference to me anymore if my spoiler-free review, if I make that after the final season or only one of the last. And yeah, I think I'm probably going to save the longer version of the following for the spoiler-free review, but I'm just so glad that Star Wars is... Like, I've loved Star Wars since I was a teenager. I'm willing to admit it really needed some kind of shakeup in recent, time, and the way that these just go so far off in another direction whilst still retaining something of Star Wars, enough, in my opinion, of Star Wars in their core that it doesn't feel like it's just something else entirely. I am in awe. So the episode, I guess I'll start with a couple of... Yeah, I'm very impressed by how much they've been able to push the TVPG rating on some of these episodes. Because, like, this is disturbing, even if it's not necessarily super violent. I noted the repeated, some of the most repeated visuals over the course of this psychedelic journey, this utter trip, were hands, eyes, and mouths. And these are, of course, three of the most significant ways with which we interact with the world around us. And, it is a scientifically documented fact that these are some of the things that, if someone is dying, or well, let's see, taking them one at a time. If someone is dying, they might see something that, once they're brought back to life, which is, of course, the only way we're going to be able to find out what someone sees when they're dying, they might see something that once they come back, it's like, oh, that wasn't actually there. Let's see. I guess I think for mouths, it's maybe in part there are certain things that as they kill you, they take away your sense of taste. And fingers, when we move our bodies, hands and fingers are one of the things that, even if you, for example, let's say you work an office job, you might not move a lot of your body that much during the day, but you're going to move your hands and fingers. And in addition to that, of course, these are some of the main ways that we can really appreciate life. Seeing something beautiful, tasting something, and the way that certain things feel in your hand, like fresh food, for example, the texture, and it's, so yeah, I don't think I have to actually explain, but I'll just state in case anyone is confused. The episode is, of course, like basically a stormtrooper, yeah, dying, um, having this, yeah, the psychedelic, this trip, perhaps trying to make sense of the fact that they're dying. The Empire, their defeat was not a guarantee before A New Hope. Like, they were very close to winning. Like, if A New Hope had ended with a defeat for the Rebel Alliance, I mean, they were about, the base was about to be destroyed, so I guess that would have happened if they hadn't destroyed the Death Star. Who's going to stop the Death Star then? You know, the yeah. And I think that pretty much covers the yeah. So eyes, hands, and mouths are also some of the things we're most worried about something bad happening to. And I think that might just about cover what I have to say about that. Another thing I loved was the way that it would jump between, I mean, some of it is clearly the Death Star being destroyed, and we're seeing it both from the inside and outside. I think it was certainly the outside, because one of the versions of the stormtrooper is, on, he's in a TIE fighter, but he also dies on Hoth. And I like the way that they, it, like, if you hadn't watched the original trilogy and you just based it off this episode, you might think that the Death Star crashed onto Hoth rather than exploding. Friendly reminder, if there's explosions in space, there's fire in space. That was a very silly way for the Chuds to attack the Acolyte. Anyway, yeah, it exploded, and that happened years before the Battle of, or crap, I can never remember the timeline. Is it 1 year before the Battle of Hoth, maybe? Anyway, it did not happen concurrently the way that this episode makes it seem, but that's, we're not meant to take what we see in this episode to be any kind of literal, like, this didn't happen the way we're seeing it. And it was also fascinating to me that it was like he was fighting other stormtroopers. There was the bit, which I love that they animated in a way that, especially because of the incredibly effective use of jazz. At times, yeah, like, it was, if it had happened, it would have been like a fist fight, basically. But at times looked almost like a dance of sorts. And, there are some incredibly talented filmmakers who have, the yeah, the fact that um, a fight can be like a dance. I mean, it's something you see in Ang Lee, his body of work, for example. And with John Woo, we also have, there's beauty in their brutality. And but yeah, so there's a fist fight. There's, when he's in a TIE fighter, he's attacking another TIE fighter. I love that, like, for all the mouth sounds that this features, there's fairly little talking. And I don't think I made out an entire word, at least not in the language I speak. I don't want to be like Bill O'Reilly and say there's no real intelligible words. It's possible that, let's see, I think there was some singing at least one point. Um, Not in a language I speak, but yeah. but certainly it was like grunting and heavy breathing and stuff like that, which again, um, sometimes when someone dies, that's the noises they make. But at the same time, you could also, you know, it's sometimes during fighting, so you could, like I said, his mind is trying to make sense of it, and that's very much a thing. I know this is getting really dark. I'm gonna try to do some more silly jokes to lighten up the mood, but it is about someone who's dying and whose mind can barely comprehend it. And yeah, it is true that these are, you know, yeah, uh, realistic and authentic. I believe I have said what I wanted to about that. I love the bit where it actually went to like, I mean, relaxation, certainly, maybe a vacation, which again, like sometimes there's that. I forget if, was it proven or disproven, or was it just a romantic notion? I forget, but there's that idea of, when you die, your life flashes before your eyes. And, yeah, that's, well, I guess, I don't know if stormtroopers get very much vacation. I feel like the Empire would probably just force them to keep working, even if one of them dropped dead. The others would be forced to work around you know. I don't know. That just feels like a really fascist kind of thing. That, I don't know. Maybe if it happened in real life, that should really lead to improving the conditions of the workers. I don't know. Just a thought. But yeah, and I know I've said it before, but and this really goes for a lot of different European countries. It's not just, but yeah, a lot of European media incredible at getting across like sensation. Like I could really sense the experience of relaxing there. And it didn't even last for terribly long, which is of course also how it has a strong contrast to the more dark material. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I just love the way that it's so much about impressions. Like the the things we see here did not happen the way we see them here, but it might have felt like that or have been imagined to be like that. Because that's also, I mean, obviously, like we saw the destruction of the Death Star went real quick once it got to the point where like they didn't have a chance to realize what happened, as has sadly been the case for a number of people who died, and we're back to the darkness. Okay, hello darkness, my old friend. The but yeah, this is the thing that, like, there's been jokes over the years about, what would it be like to be on the Death Star as it was blowing up, or as you realize it was blowing up. And there was, I forget who, but someone joked the that the most of the people who worked on the Death Star were probably essentially construction workers, and so Luke Skywalker killed a bunch of them. But to see a piece of official Star Wars media, and to be clear, I don't, haven't read the books or the comics. It's possible it's happened there. I'm not disparaging them. I just haven't read them. And maybe it also was in at least one of the games. Haven't played all of them. I will play more. I know I've already reviewed several, but more are coming. But to see this, like, explore this thing of like, well, the yeah, what would it have been like to, you know, yeah, um, to experience the explosion from the inside. Um, yeah, I think that might. I'm not sure I have much more to say. I know yeah. Said it before, will say it again. There really is nothing quite like anime. Like the dynamic visuals and sound and the way that it just, yeah, I don't know. It just it has such sights to show us.